Peace, y'all. Today we're going to be talking about the Two of Swords in the African American Tarot deck. I am selling my notes on this. I have all the notes in the Minor Arcana. There are just like a few cards missing because it's hard to find all this information. I'm not going to front y'all. But if you just don't want to wait for the videos and you want to see the notes, you can purchase them through PayPal or through my Etsy account. I'll have the information if it changes or whatnot in the description box and in the comment section below. So Adroa, I honestly think androgynous. The more and more I like read up on this card, as you can see, look, we have a person cut in half. One is melanated, one is, I would say, albino, you know, I'm honestly not sure. But cut in half, really, really, really interesting, right? And the Two of Swords is pointing up. It's kind of strange. I usually get clarity when I think of this card, but it also could symbolize, like, how do I put it? Like people going against each other or defense. So let's get into the history of this. So this is from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Sudan, and Uganda. So Adroa Lugbara. If you know how to say it, put it in the comment section below. Adroa Lugbara. So the supreme god and creator who, like many other African gods, had two aspects. He was therefore, in effect, two gods, Adroa and Adro. I believe I'm saying that right. Adro or Adronja was the sky god. Adroa was transcendent, lying beyond the limits of experience and knowledge and remote from humanity. Adroa was thought of as Onyuru, good. Adro was the earth god, immanent, existing within the realm of reality and close to humanity. He was thought of as Onzi, bad. His children were the Adroanzi. Adroanzi literally means bad god and was associated with death. And to gain Adro's favor, people sacrificed children to him, which later became rams that were substituted for children as sacrificial victims. Adroa, remember that's the sky god, created the first man and woman, a pair of twins. Now, hopefully I'm saying this right. Gaboro and Meme. Meme gave birth to all the animals and then to another pair of male-female twins. These first sets of twins were not really human. They had supernatural powers and could perform magical deeds. After several generations of male-female miraculous twins, the hero ancestors Jackie and Diribudu were born. Their sons were said to be the founders of the present-day Lugbara clans. So this is taken from the African Mythology A to Z book, which I would love, 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 love to check that out. So really this is like yin and yang, y'all. This is like the African version of yin and yang, sky and earth, good and bad. Really, really, really interesting. We have lightness, darkness, literally in the skin tones in the card, and just, you know, also in general. I love looking at the skies when I look at these things. We have a clear sky, which to me symbolizes clarity in the Two of Swords. And we also have this red right here, red symboling a foundation, strength. It's not like the Emperor card or, you know, where those cards where the royalty is wrapped all in red. So maybe not a huge foundation or huge a sense of security, but it is there, right? I would also check out the jewelry and the flowers blossoming below. So symbology is always important in these things. Now, oh man, I cannot remember the man in the back of this card, but what I might do is do a part 2 so that you guys can know who this who this ancestor is back here. Okay. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. There is a sense of, I don't want to say violence, but like fighting in this card. Now, what I didn't go over was who Doris Miller was, the man in the background. So I'm going to do that right now. In this article, this is how Doris Miller's bravery helped fight Navy racism. Let me put the article up here so you guys can see. How Doris Miller's bravery helped fight Navy racism. And So that's the ancestor that we're going to be looking over today. So let's go through it. Among the pantheon of America's heroes, none might seem more improbable than the black son of Texas sharecropper and grandson of slaves Doris Miller. Miller, known to many as Dory, was born on October 12, 1919, during the darkest days of the lynching epidemic that blighted the South in the 20th century's first decade, which is only 3 years before Miller was born. So let's get straight. Let me try to find the article. Wow, Norfolk, Virginia. Shout out 757. After attending a racially segregated boot camp at Norfolk, Virginia, he was assigned on January 2nd, 1940 to the battleship West Virginia, which, due to the rising tensions between the United States and the growing Japanese Empire, was soon transferred along with the entire Pacific Fleet to Pearl Harbor. There, on the morning of December 7th, 1941, the fleet came under attack from carrier-launched aircraft of the Japanese Imperial Navy. When the raid struck, Doris Miller, then 22, and a mess attendant, third class, was below decks, doing the laundry of one of the ship's ensigns. With the first torpedo's explosion, he reported to his battle station, the ship's magazine. He found the magazine already flooded. However, so went sinking reassignment. He encountered the ship's communications officer, Lieutenant, Commander Dwar C. Johnson, who ordered him to the signals deck, where West Virginia's commanding officer, Captain Mervyn Sharp Binion, lay mortally wounded. Woo. Miller, the ship's heavyweight boxing champion, was ordered to lift his dying captain, and carry him to a place of relative safety, a shelter spot just after, of the conning tower below the port side anti-aircraft guns. Wow, and look, they got a picture of, I believe this is the bombing. Wow, I believe this is the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Interesting, okay. Yeah, this is the Japanese air raid on Pearl Harbor. By then, the ships had sustained heavy damage from 2 bombs and 6 Japanese torpedoes. A 7th failed to explode and was listing drastically, its port guns silenced. Wow. Whoa. So, okay. Miller found a gun, basically unattended and without orders and with absolutely no training in its operation, took control and opened fire. So that's the gun right here. So this is Doris Miller holding the gun, opening fire on the Japanese, y'all. It wasn't hard, he later recounted. I just pulled the trigger and she worked fine. White later reported that Miller didn't know very much about the machine gun, but I told him what to do and he went ahead and did it. He had a good eye. Lieutenant Commander Johnson recalled Miller blazing away as though he had fired one all his life. Miller himself stated that when the Japanese bombers attacked my ship at Pearl Harbor, I forgot all about the fact that I and other Negroes can be only messmen in the Navy and are not taught how to man an anti-aircraft gun. Okay, because that's what I was thinking, y'all. I was like, how was he in the Navy and he didn't know how to use a gun? Who knew that Negroes, and this is back in the 1940s, right? When Pearl Harbor hit. This is what I'm guessing. Who knew that you could only be messmen in the Navy at the time? That's crazy. Okay, only when his gun ran out of ammunition and the critically damaged West Virginia is the name of the ship, right? Began to sink, did he cease firing. And only when Captain Binion was officially pronounced dead did the little group of officers and men abandon the ship's bridge. Descending to the boat deck, wow, how courageous is that? Descending to the boat deck, Miller helped pull sailors from the burning water, unquestionably saving the lives of a number of men. By then, the ship was flooded below decks and rapidly settling in the Arbor's shallow water, and its senior surviving officer gave the order to abandon ship. Dory Miller, was one of the last 3 men to leave the West Virginia, the ship. He and his shipmates swam 300 or 400 yards to shore, avoiding patches of flaming oil from the battleship. The battleship Arizona, that was the name of that ship, and strafing from Japanese planes. Dang. Miller later told his brother that with those bullets spattering all around me, it was by the grace of God that I never got a scratch. Even then, Miller helped scores of injured sailors to safety ashore. Okay, so of West Virginia, again, the ship's name, right? 1,541 or 15, I would say 1,500 if I round down, right? Crew numbers. 106 were killed, 52 members were wounded. 7 of the 8 American battleships in the harbor that day were sunk or badly damaged. Miller attributed his survival to divine providence and must have been on God's strength and Mother's blessing, he later told a newspaper reporter. Okay, so there's controversy that still exists as to how effective Miller's gunnery had been. There's estimates that ran as high as half a dozen planes were shot down by this man. Woo! And his justifiably proud niece later made the claim that his gunnery had saved the U.S. West Coast from invasion that December. Despite Miller's best efforts, just 29 of the 350 attacking Japanese aircraft failed to return to their carriers, and only one of those fell within the range of any of West Virginia's guns. Wow. Very, very history I had no idea about. And what's so crazy, because I used to live in Virginia, and I used to work at the Newsom House Museum, and I'm not going to get into who Newsom was here, but not across the street, but in Newport News, Virginia, you can actually go to the Doris Miller, is it the center? Or I'm not sure what it's called, but there's a theater in there. There's a gallery in there, and it's just a beautiful art center. If I'm not wrong, I believe it's called Doris Miller, right? So they do give credit to this man in Virginia, but I never looked up the history until now. Absolutely crazy. So ashe to Doris Miller, Dory Miller. Look what you've done for not only African Americans, but for America, right? For this country. Or I shouldn't even say African Americans, right? We'll get into that in another video too. But this card has a totally different meaning now, right? Because they seem so separate, but they're connected. And I think about the separation between the people who weren't allowed, right? For lack of a better term, the colored people who weren't allowed to. These terms are so crazy, right? Colored, black, African American, people who are not able to use a gun on the ship, and how, you could just, I think, tension and opposition and conflict with that, but how it also comes together, because when it comes down to another country attacking you, right, or to an enemy, right, that's when it's time for us to come together, or us to work together as one to defeat the enemy. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever, when somebody else is pouring bullets on you. So another way to look at this card, right, depending on the situation that you're given in a reading. Okay, so if you didn't know, now you know.